Good day, liberators and fellow citizens of the world. I want to pack the bull by its horns and address the issue promptly about farm murders and land expropriation without compensation. It's a topic. These are topics which are regularly now pushed in South Africa and also has now become world attention. And I've sent a video out last week regarding the Land Expropriation Act of 2024, and I've explained why people should not be worried about it. But irrespective, people would rather like to move and forward the disinformation than actually facing the truth. Because it's unfortunately the moment when you have decided that you don't like our government in South Africa, and to be frank, I also don't like them. But at the end of the day, South Africa is my country. I am a patriot. I love my country, and I believe that we as citizens of South Africa, irrespective of your race, your color, your religion, we can be unified if we allow ourselves to be unified. But unfortunately, with everything that has been happening lately, it's creating racial conflict. That is the purpose. It's intended to create division amongst the people of South Africa. And I want to show you the proof that the narratives being pushed out there by organizations, especially like AfriForum. I've talked about AfriForum many times, and yeah, unfortunately, the message does not get out there because it's more comfortable to believe something that is in line with the fact that the ANC is screwing up the country. Yes, we know that, but so did the National Party government as well before them. So it's not new amongst politicians that they are actually screwing up their countries. So the ANC is not unique. The corruption under the ANC is not actually far different from the corruption that took place under the National Party government. They just, with all the censorship and the militaristic policing that we had those years, we were actually the truth was actually hidden from us those years. But let me back it, the bull by its horns, as I'm saying. And people, if you differ from me, I'm just asking you that please do not crucify me. I'm going to show you why I say what I say. And please let me have your opinion. Please comment and tell me why what I'm saying is wrong. Because what I'm going to share with you has never ever been shared by organizations like AfriForum. They just talk, and they incite people to believe in one direction. It's comfortable to believe that the ANC government is just exterminating the white race in South Africa. Because it's comfortable to believe that, because in a sense we expect the ANC to do that. But let me just show you a quick clip from a very good movie. It's this movie Treurgrond. If you haven't watched it, go find it, go have a look. It's a very good movie, but unfortunately I'm going to show you the disinformation that they should never have put in that movie that has actually instigated racial conflict among South Africans. And let me just go to the clip and let us watch.
So wat het jy gedink van die eerste dag, Sergeant?
Die eerste dag? Is dit altyd so erg?
Erger, my vriend.
Erger?
Ek moet erken, vandag is 'n lelike een. Ek het aanvanklik gedink die ouens oordryf. Ek het er agtergekom, hulle is maar bietjie sensitief. Verwonder my altyd hoe hulle elke keer nuwe, meer gruisame maniere kry om moorde te pleeg. Wat het geword van 'n meshond? 'n Enkele skoot? Nee, die mense moet gemartel word. Die bliksems dink hulle is baie kreatief.
Hoe praat jy van hierdie goed asof dit die weer is? Jy laat dit klink asof
wat?
Asof dit jou nie raak nie.
Ek het al 30 plaasmoorde hierdie jaar gesien, Sergeant. Ons trek nou eers by September. En dis net in hierdie area. As ek nou elke plaas moet eers 'n bietjie tyd met afstand om te rou, so ek al lank in Weskoppies gesit het.
Well, there you've heard 30 murders only in this area. People, one murder is one murder too many. And whether it's a farmer that has been murdered on his farm, or whether it is someone staying in the city who has been hijacked and killed, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So I'm not trying to say that farm murders are forget about it. No, in fact, I want us to focus on farm murders, but I also want you to also focus in the same enthusiasm on the other murders, the other 20,000 murders that's happening annually in South Africa. Not the 50 odd on the farms only. Let me just show you, let me just share this with you, that at the end, during the 1990s, our family also had gone through a farm murder tragedy in our family. My one uncle, Christian, and his wife, Hannah, they were in their 70s. They were murdered with shovels on their farm. And, Uncle Christian and Tanyana, they were lovable people, really. Their farm workers loved them, adored them. They were like family on the farm. The farm workers had brick houses. It was a big cattle farm operations, and 4,000 hectares or so. And but the farm workers were more grieved about their death because they were looked after like family. Besides the brick houses with sewage and water running, with a warehouse full of food for them, there was even a school for the children. There was the doctor came once a month to go and check up on the farm workers, brought medication, etc. So when Uncle Christian and Tanyana were murdered, they had to leave the farm. In fact, it was taken over by the government. That was in Namibia, but at that time when it occurred, it could just have been in South Africa as well, the same scenario. And I'm not saying that compares to the parents and the siblings that are murdered on farms, but when you look at what is actually happening behind the farm murder narrative that's being pushed, let me just go into the actual stats. 2020. There were 63 farm murders. No, let me just quickly see here. There were 446 farm murders in 2020 and 77 farm murders. 2021, 248 and 43 farm murders. 22, 156 farm attacks and 39 farm murders. 2023, 182 farm attacks, 45 farm murders. And then in 2024, the last statistics, 76 attacks and 58 murders for that year in the entire South Africa. So when you watch a movie like Treurgrond, and they come to the point whereby they say that it's 30 murders only in this area, but there's 1,200 police stations in South Africa. So it actually, for the people watching it, it's the message is that there's 30 times 1,200. So we are talking about a very, very large number of farm murders. And then the further thing is that in South Africa and actually around the world, they don't keep track of crime towards a certain race group or religion or whatever. So all the statistics are combined. So those murder figures and attacks, farm attacks, include black people also. And it's more black people than white people that are murdered on these farms all over South Africa. So it's not just a centralized or only in this area. 30 people have been died, or there were murders until September. We're only in September. So that is a narrative being pushed, that it appears as if the white farmers particular are being slaughtered. And then unfortunately there's no specific figure of how many people stay on farms in South Africa. But according to 2002, that was the last actual figures that were circulated that there were roughly 3 million. It was considered to be 3 million people in 2002. So let's assume it's approximately 5 million people now. Thumbs up. Still, compared to how many people are staying on farms, generally towards how many are murdered, it's a small percentage. But when you go to the urban areas, it's much more. Many more white people are being killed, just like many black people are being killed in urban areas than on the farms. It's in fact much safer to be on the farm than actually go to town and stay there. I've told the story before about this family who wanted their parents, who were elderly people, to move from their farm, and they wanted to say, oh, it's unsafe for you on the farm. And within a week that they've moved into the urban area, the parent, the father, the grandfather, was killed in a hijacking in a week. So the question is, well, maybe he would still have been alive if he just stayed on his farm. So the question about farm murders is something very, very, it's controversial. We are made to believe that there's the white people are being slaughtered on our farms. Yes. Why do we think so? It's also the way that the farmers are murdered. They are tortured. It's really hectic, but it's happening in town, in the urban areas as well, with all races. The way people are being murdered, it's especially with gang murders. The moment when these gangs in these townships, specifically in the so-called colored areas in Cape Town or so, they are ruthless. They really torture their victims when they are murdered. Unimaginable, really. And so the problem is the society. It's currently our lives. That's what the problem is. It's not that someone is specifically deciding to target a certain group, because when you compare how many, if there's 20,000 on average murders in South Africa, only about 2,000 of them, maybe less, are white people. Unfortunately, there are no statistics specifically for that out there. So we have to go and ask the Minister of Police for those statistics to be provided. But it's something that we can do. But no, South Africans are not, white people are not slaughtered. It's not so. There's a massive problem with murders, yes, but not targeting white people specifically. Now, before I go over to the issue of the land expropriation, we must remember that what could be the purpose of pushing a narrative like farmers are being killed, white farmers are being killed like flies on their farms? What purpose would it have? Well, the purpose is that the moment when we are being fear-mongered that farm is so unsafe to be on a farm, then the farmers will rather want to leave their farms. And that is what they want. Our enemies want the farmers to leave their farms willfully, although it's actually sort of coercion. But they want the farmers to leave their farms so that a company, a black economic empowerment company, can take over, but mostly a large company like Monsanto or so that the Agenda 2030 can be pushed at the end of the day of controlling our food production. If those big companies are being put out there and they can take their machines and deal with thousands of hectares at one instance, that is where we're heading. So it is imperative that the farmers should not fear. Yes, there are farm attacks, but to be frank, anyone who wants to take on a farm in South Africa specifically actually have to take on the farmer with a tank, because many of these farmers are very, very woke and awake, and they can take out a whole gang of 10, 20 farm attackers very easily. So they know that. So that's why they don't want to actually go out and start to do this. They'll rather do the fear mongering so that the farmers can willfully, in inverted commas, give up their land. And now let me move over to the land expropriation without compensation. People, you have not read the Expropriation Act of 2024, have you? Because if you have, and you have compared it with the Expropriation Act of 1975 that it repealed, then you would have seen that this new act is much, much, much better than the old act. And I'm not saying that land expropriation is good. The reality is that land expropriation for the state has been there since 1652 on our shores. So since the white men, us white people, came from Europe to colonize the tip of the African continent, we brought land expropriation laws with us. So it has been something around for many years, and as I've said in my previous video, which people have not actually watched, my own family in Naboomspruit, the farm was called Klippert, was expropriated in the 1980s by the NP government by using the Expropriation Act of 1975. After the land bank and the coöperasie were paid, there wasn't anything left. So technically speaking, it was actually an expropriation for the N1 highway that was built through that farm. That was basically expropriation without compensation. My family didn't get much from that, if any. I think that Gerardus, that was there, never had much money. My great grandmother and great grandfather's graves and also other family, probably a couple of generations, were also there, and were buried there. And at one instance, we had an island we could go, but afterwards they've also, as far as I know, they've blocked the entrance to the graveyard, so we can't even go and visit them anymore. That is under the NP government. It happened there. The laws were there to actually expropriate quickly. White, black, pink, colored, whoever comes in the way of the state, their properties have been expropriated. Let me just quickly show you. Let's go to the Expropriation Act 2024. Act 13 of 2024, Expropriation Act. Okay, so it does say here to make where the provision of nil compensation may be just and equitable. I will get to that. White farmers do not have to worry. Nowhere in this entire act says that we want to expropriate the land of white farmers or white people. Nowhere. If they really wanted to waited to get this act going, they would have had much better results on the old Expropriation Act of 1975. I will show you what gemors that was. But let me show you. Preamble. There it stands specifically. Property may be expropriated only in terms of law of general application. This is section 25 of the Constitution. For a public purpose or in the public interest and subject to compensation, the amount of which and the time and manner of payment of which have either been agreed to by those affected or decided or approved by a court. There it confirms that you must have compensation. When are you not going to have compensation? And let me just quickly show you this. This is in terms of section 12(3). It may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid where land is expropriated in the public interest, having regard to all relevant circumstances, including but not limited to, i.e., where the land is not being used and the owner's main purpose is not to develop the land or use it to generate income, but to benefit from appreciation of its market value. You will see in the city, for example, you will see that between all these houses, there are still these unused urban. I know plenty of them. So it's just that it's registered on someone's name, but they have never done anything with it. So if you don't want it and you're not using it, and you merely, as the act says, that you are using the value of it, the appreciation, and properties are actually increasing in value. So you're actually using it just to increase your asset value. That's all you do. But why do you have it if someone else can actually use it? But even in those circumstances, as the act, if you read the act properly, even under those circumstances, you will still have your opportunity to fight it. And then B, where an organ of state holds land that is not using for its core functions and is not reasonably likely to require the land for its future activities in that regard, and the organ of state acquired the land for no consideration. So it's land of the state. Okay, that's the second option. Okay, I still don't see white farms. Do you? No, I don't. then notwithstanding registration of ownership in terms of the Deeds Registries Act of 1937, where an owner has abandoned the land by failing to exercise control over it despite being reasonably capable of doing so. So this is, again, you've got this land, absolutely not using it. So then it can be, it's no benefit to you, so why not expropriate it for null compensation? And then D, where the market value of the land is equivalent to or less than the present value of direct state investment or subsidy in the acquisition and beneficial capital improvement of the land. So where you receive some benefit from the state directly, that's actually more than the value of the property, of your property, then I can say, okay, but then obviously you all have been compensated for the use of the land and under those circumstances. But the fact remains that there's no white farms. White people's farms are not being null compensated. It does not say so. Let me refer you to the Expropriation Act of 1975. So let's go into this. Oh, and just by the way, even the old Expropriation Act of 1975, when you go to property, I will show you there. Property means both movable and immovable property. So, in other words, both Expropriation Acts, the new one and the old one, made provision for both movables. And so it has always been there, people. The expropriation, they could have expropriated the land of the white people in their millions, but they did not do that. And I'm not saying for one bit that I love the ANC. I'm just saying that if the ANC really wanted to expropriate white people's property left, right, and center, it would have been much, much easier for them to have used the apartheid, the segregation era law act, and not anything else. So it also includes both all property, movable and immovable. But very interesting here is that the minister, in this specific circumstances, the minister could have just given you a notification that the property is to be expropriated or is to be used temporarily. So there must be a notice. Let me just get to that. Yes, there's also no obligation to even offer compensation. You can ask for it, but there's no obligation to be compensated for your property. Could have happened under this act. I just want to quickly get to the notice itself. Article section 7.2. The notice of expropriation shall contain. Okay. The old act of 1971 said that there's a notice of expropriation. So the first line of defense is that you have to, you receive your property has been expropriated. Okay. So the minister sends you and give you a time, this is the date, and it will happen. Then you have to go and fight this in court. If you can negotiate with the minister, but if he has made a decision that he wants to expropriate, it's expropriated. You don't have any say. You only have a say about the compensation part. So now, let me show you what has happened in the Supreme Court of Appeal. In this case, way back in 2004, the Buffalo City Municipality and Willie Gores and the Premier Eastern Cape Province. Okay, so what basically happened here was that the Buffalo City decided they need the property. There was a dispute about the compensation, but the owner of the property basically said that he was very much aggrieved by the fact that he was not consulted before the expropriation took place, and that whether, as we say, expropriation in accordance with the Municipal Ordinance of Cape, number 20 of 1974, whether owner entitled to be heard before preliminary steps taken by local authority. Yes, as you can see, it is in terms of the Expropriation Act at the end of the day. Basically, at that point where they have already made the decision they want to expropriate your property, your land, he said that it's unfair. They should have actually consulted with him beforehand. And the Supreme Court of Appeal, under those circumstances, said no, the compensation is fair and there was no obligation. It was a total constitutionally aligned process for you not to have been part of the decision-making process. The decision is, it's up to the state. The benefit goes to the state. If the state wants your property, and they're willing to pay for it, and the court determines the correct amount for it, then you don't have any choice. So you can always challenge it afterwards, and also in terms of the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, the POJA Act, to challenge the decision making of that. So the court basically said, you can't have your bread buttered on both sides. You will have the opportunity to fight it afterwards, but there was no obligation in terms of the Constitution to make you part of the decision making process. Guess what? Now, the new Expropriation Act of 2024 has altered this approach that the Supreme Court of Appeal had. Let me just quickly go in there. This is powers. Okay, there's the expropriation powers of there's an investigation that has to be properly done. During that investigation, you can already participate as the owner. And then what's very nice about this one is that there's a notice of intention to expropriate. People, this dramatic white expropriation act that AfriForum and the other boerelegioene and so forth are fighting has got a process in which the other one, which have been used since 1975, doesn't even have. It's got a notice of intention to expropriate. So it's not that we expropriate and now you can fight. This is before we expropriate. We want you to please participate and say what's on. Wow. And then only after those processes have been followed, you will see that then in terms of Section 8, there's a notice of expropriation. So you've got, in terms of this new act, you've got the investigation part that you participate in. Secondly, you've got the intent to expropriate part to participate in. And then you've got the notice of expropriation to also participate in. So, people, let me just show you that in terms of, there was in the High Court, this was in the Eastern Cape judgment. This was in the matter way back in 2005 that happened. It was by Judge Ibrahim. Ibrahim has gone through this process where the state wanted to expropriate land, and he came to the conclusion in this, after it gone through the court, to say, sorry, the processes were wrong, were incorrect, and as you can see here at the end, I just want to get to that point. It says that the order, in the result, there is an order in the following terms. The notice of intended expropriation signed by the first respondent on the 2nd of February 2005 is declared to be invalid and of no force and effect and is set aside. And so the court sided after they've gone through the arguments and everything. The court said, no, sorry, you cannot expropriate. There was the actual golden nugget of expropriation cases was by the Constitutional Court way back also in 2004 already. 2004. Okay. In this case, there was, just like happened in my family farms case, an expropriation for a road by the Minister of Transport. So the authority was given via the National Roads Act of 1971 and also incorporating the Expropriation Act. And in here, the court has confirmed it's not an easy way. The process is, in terms of Section 25 of the Constitution, must be followed strictly. And if there's any indication that it is not for state purposes, then there is no valid expropriation. So go and read these court cases. Go and understand how expropriation works. And then in this specific instance, I believe that the court has also stipulated that the appeal failed. But when you read this, you will understand that it's a long process. It's not just flickering of the thumbs. And let me just show you this part of Treurgrond, which is also disinformation.
Die hof het nie genoeg bewyse van eienaarskap van die eiser meneer Edwin Libone ontvang nie. Tog is bewyse voorgelê aan die hof dat die plaas wel aan die Libones behoort het. Volgens die Grondeisenwet van 2003 is die hof nie in staat om die plaas aan die Lebonas te oorhandig nie. Die hof verklaar dus dat die grond in die geval van die plaas meneer Van Staden se eiendom is. Meneer Lebona as die eiser kan appel aanteken na die Hooggeregshof of die Konstitusionele Hof teen hierdie bevinding. Die hof is verdaag.
So here, the court refers to the Land Claims Act of 2003. There is no Land Claims Act of 2003. The actual act that should have been referred to was in fact the Restitution of Land Rights Act of 1994 applicable in that instance. And then it's not just you receive a letter and then you must be in court on Monday. No. You must actually submit a claim to the Land Claims Commission, and then they investigate the land claims, and then if there's no consensus amongst the parties, then only it proceeds to the Land Claims Court. And then this judge has said, oh, but you've got the right to appeal to the High Court and to the Constitutional Court. People, it's actually, as you can see here, appeals from court in terms of that Act 37. No appeal shall lie against a judgment or order of the court except with leave of the court or where such leave has been refused with the leave of the Supreme Court of Appeal. But an appeal from a judgment or order of the court shall be heard by the Supreme Court of Appeal, not by the High Court, because the Land Claims Court is considered to be a High Court. So the next step to appeal that is to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and then thereafter you can go and file for leave to appeal with the Constitutional Court. So it's this information in a movie that everyone watches, and it is emotional subjects that they are tackling in this effect, in this movie. They are giving wrong information, and I say that it's intentional. It's intentional to instigate fear, to make people think that it is so easy to expropriate you get the form now and then on Monday, then you are in court. People, it's ridiculous, really. It's like soapies. AfriForum in particular they are underestimating the intelligence of the South African and especially the white people, and they're actually succeeding. Sorry to say it, but they know that they can say any crap, and as long as it's against the government and pro-Afrikaners and white people, then you must accept it. It is the truth. And now I've just showed you on the video that they were also helping in, and they were part and parcel of those procedures. Or making of that movie. They are lying to the people. It's not like that. It's not the case. So yeah, we are sitting with a major problem, that we accept that all these things are the truth. We are hiding as boere Afrikaners. We are playing the victim now. We are doing exactly the same like the black people in South Africa have been doing for a couple of decades, hiding behind apartheid. So everything that goes wrong, we're blamed on apartheid, and now the white people have got progress for 30 years, and now we are blaming black economic empowerment. Yes, I don't like it, and why don't we fight it? We can fight it if we want to, but now we say that we are being slaughtered on the farms, and we are left, right, and center. Our properties are being taken. What is very much ironic, and go and Google this, people. Donald Trump, he's a property developer. It's his work. He got rich because he got properties at next to nothing, if ever he paid for. When you just go and do your research, you will realize that many properties, like for example in this place where they always gamble a lot, Las Vegas, many of those properties, the Trump Taj Mahal, so I think, yeah, he basically got it free of charge. So now people are running and ask him for, please save us, because we are being slaughtered on our farms, and we are being our properties are going to be expropriated without compensation. But there's no proof that there's farm attacks are more than in the urban areas, or more against white people than black people. It's quite the contrary. And also, there's no place in the Expropriation Act where the word white is even mentioned. not even of white people, of previous or to chase white people off. As I say, if they really wanted to, they could have used it. Interesting enough, and unfortunately it's now at the end and many people have not watched it until now. Herman Mashaba, while he was the DA, mayor of city of Johannesburg, under his authority, he has expropriated land in the CBD area. He has instructed Greg Vermaak attorneys. That was about 2014-ish, around there. But maybe a year or two before, or just slightly after, around that period. He instructed Greg Vermaak to proceed with the expropriation of several of these properties, which were actually belonging to black people. So it was actually quite easy and very effective, because if the municipality could have actually gotten the approval to expropriate, and they instruct the attorney firm, Greg Vermaak attorneys at that point in time, to proceed with these expropriation, it's much quicker for them to have used the Expropriation Act, because then they didn't have to go through the legal process to actually eventually legally attach the properties. So when there was a lot of outstanding debt on the property and it was dilapidated, it was much better to just expropriate without having to go through that long process. And so that is in some ways a quick, effective method of doing things. And I reaffirm, there's approximately 20,000 or so of properties being repossessed without compensation by our banks every year. Why don't we toy about that? Why do we not take on the banks for repossessing without compensation all these properties of our own people? Why don't we attack that? If the ANC really wanted to also expropriate, they could have used the banks as well to expropriate, but it never happened. People, I hope that this has opened up your eyes a bit to say that, I will never say that farm murders are just, let's just shove it. No, I will never do that, because it is serious. All murders, all crime in South Africa are serious. There is no one greater and better than the other. We have to face this as a nation. Pink, black, green, Christian, Muslim, Jew, whoever, we have to face this together. And unfortunately, with narratives and allowing others to deceive us, the Afrikaners, the Boers, have been deceived by their own leaders during the Boer War. Jan Smuts and Louis Botha, they were all traitors, but the Boers believed in them. They followed them as their leaders, as their generals. But at the end of the day, it turned out that they were actually agents of the British. So people, please do not fall for all these Boer organizations like AfriForum and Key. They are not your friend. They are being funded. Ask them, where do they get their funds from? Ask them, why are they registered as an organization, a non-profit organization with the United Nations? The moment when you ask them those questions, you will quickly find out that AfriForum is not our friend. Please, let us stop believing in them. They only go out and look for tasks that they are given by their masters, who will most probably be the same one that is funding Mr. Strawberry Hat and Key. You will most probably find people like Johan Rupert also backing AfriForum. As far as I know, it is happening. And possibly even the Oppenheimers and those people that have made their billions from the soil of exploiting the earths of South Africa. Hopefully this will put a new perspective. Please do not crucify me because I'm bringing you this valid information, but it's something that you have to consider. God bless until the next time.
Liberty Fighters Network.
Liberty Fighters Network.